Welcome back to another tabletop video. In this video, we're playing another Friday Night League, and we're playing Regidrago again. Let me know if you guys are getting bored of this Regidrago content. It's just the best deck, so it's what I've been playing. But if you guys want to see something else, let me know in the comments down below. I'll be sure to try it out at League next week. But otherwise, this is the Regidrago list I've been playing. If you've been watching my videos, you know this is my list. I tried one change this time. I cut the Halucha for canceling Cologne. Different way to answer Manaphy, right? The Halucha lets you knock out the Manaphy with Phantom Dive. The Canceling Clone lets you remove the ability and then cure them. So these cards fulfill similar purposes. So just trying out this one swap today at League. Also, last week at League, Ethan was playing Snorlax. So if he plays Snorlax again, I want to be ready. Otherwise, let's get right into the gameplay. In our first round, we run into a Regidrago mirror match. I was pretty happy about this. First of all, it's a great practice for me. Second of all, I do play an Iron Bundle, so I feel pretty confident in this matchup. If we're both using Cleffa at the start of the game, I'm going to be able to break that stalemate much easier with Iron Bundle, and I assume my opponent doesn't have an Iron Bundle. Seems like no one's playing it nowadays. Additionally, we get to go second and start Cleffa, so that's pretty nice. From what I remember, my hand here is pretty weak, though. We're going to play Earthen Vessel here. We're going to do our full prize check, and I'll skip through this, and we can get back into the gameplay. After I check my prizes, I just go ahead and fail the Vessel. Super Odd back in the energy, and then we hit the Squawk ability to discard our hand and draw 6. You'll notice I think I discarded both my Super Odds there, so not ideal, but could be worse. At least we've got some cards in our hand, we've got some Pokemon on the board, and we started Cleffa, but we don't get a Regidrago V down, so that's definitely not good. It's alright, we definitely can still win this game. If our opponent just like knocks out a Cleffa here, we can definitely play the game. We do play Mew EX, so if our opponent uses any attack other than Goodra, we could come in with the Mew EX, take a big knockout. Additionally, we're playing the best comeback deck in the game, so even if our opponent does something crazy, takes 2 prizes here, we can Cleffa again, get some Dragos down. So we're definitely not feeling out of this game, but we're not feeling good when our opponent sets up a Regidrago VSTAR without even using her VSTAR power. So we're definitely in a rough spot here. I believe the attackers she has access to at this point are the Alolan Exeggutor, the Swinging Sphene, and then also the Dragapult. So Dragapult, not going to be too good for her here. I think she's just going to end up sending it on the Exeggutor, and she flips heads, and I ask her, I'm like, okay, what is my active dead? Is my bench dead? Because I don't play that card. I don't think it's very good, but she flips the wrong one. She flips heads, knocks out my Cleffa, and I immediately start piecing together, how do I get a Mew EX onto the board? How do I get a Giratina V-Star into my discard? My hand's pretty good. I've got a couple E-switches in there. I think I have access to all the pieces. We're also going to need to get down a Regidrago V in order to threaten that V-Star on the next turn. We don't want to have to use Mew EX the whole game. So we go ahead and play this Ultra Ball. Hopefully this can get us the Giratina V-Star. Something else to note about this board is with the Squawkabilly, Fezzidippity, and Mew on my board, I am very vulnerable to Kyurem. If my opponent's able to just Kyurem twice, they will win the game. I can't stop them. They also won't be activating my Fez while doing so, so this is not like a great position to be in. We're kind of just hoping they can't pull that off. Maybe the Kyurem's prized, maybe it's too difficult to get all the energies into play. We are going to be knocking out our opponent's only Regidrago V-Star, all their energies, so hopefully they just cannot pull off a double Kyurem play. If they have to V-Star to get the first Kyurem, then I'll feel really good about my spot. You just play an Iono, hopefully they can't play the game, and we can keep loss impacting or whatever else we want to do in order to protect ourselves. Additionally, if they go for Kyurem, we can use Mew EX to copy Goodra, protecting our Mew from the next Kyurem, so that's just a little bit of protection against that. Otherwise, against anything other than this Kyurem line, I'm feeling pretty good about this spot. We did take the first 2 prizes. As long as we can maintain this kind of 2 prize exchange, we should be feeling pretty good. We're going to get access to Radzard as the game goes on, and that'll give us some easier attackers. We see our opponent flip her V-Star power. We love to see it. That means we're almost certainly not going to be able to get Kyuremed here. I wasn't really expecting to get Kyuremed here, to be honest. I just didn't think it was a realistic play for them to pull off, given that I killed their only Regidrago V-Star. But, yep, we love to see the V-Star also discard the Prime Catcher. At this point, I think my opponent's actually down a lot of her Gusting effects. I think she might have like 1 boss left over, something like that. So, feeling pretty good. We've also got that Iron Bundle chilling on the bench. It's going to let us get an attack off that isn't into this rolling Iron Drago VSTAR. Maybe she could have benched a one-prize Pokemon here to play around it, like her Cleffa or the Radzards in the discard, so I don't know, but maybe a one-prize Pokemon could have come onto the board. We pop the Iron Bundle here just to get that Drago out of the active. We like popping that bundle at the start of the turn before giving our opponent any information, right? We don't want them to be able to make good decisions. So we pop the bundle, make them make the decision before we show them that we have this Radzard's Fire Energy, the E-Switch, whatever else we got, right? So I like that. I think it makes a lot of sense. At this point, we're just thinning our deck. We're ahead in the prize trade. There should be nothing our opponent can do to stop us. All we got to do here is like set up a Regidrago V-Star to protect us from Iono, get the Radzard into the active. I guess this means we'll be knocking out the Pheasantipede with Radzard. We still need to draw Fire Energy here, so that's a little awkward. If we whiff the Fire Energy here, it'd be a disaster. I waste no time. Slam it down. There we go. Fire Energy on the Radzard, and we take our 2-prize knockout. Our hand is pretty terrible here from what I remember, but I think it just doesn't really matter. Whatever our opponent does on our next turn, we're going to be able to V-Star, bring back Prime Catcher, Radzard, pull up like Squawkabilly or whatever, and take our final 2. And that's what we see. She goes for the swinging Sphene. God, I hate that card. Just such an annoying attack to pronounce. And anyways, we V-Star. We get the Radzard back, go for the Prime Catcher, and we kill the Ogerpon, winning the game with no Regidrago V down on turn 1. In round 2, we run into a Goldengho deck. Now, I was excited to play this matchup because usually I have Hawlucha, and this matchup feels really free, but without Hawlucha, this matchup actually gets very complicated because it's very hard to initiate the prize trade with a 2-prize knockout. Luckily, my opponent's put down the Palkia, so there's potentially ideas of loss impacting the Palkia to start off the game, but if I take a 1-prize knockout and he takes a 2-prize knockout right back, things can definitely get awkward here. So we play our Earthen Vessel, we do our prize check. Looks like we were pretty quick this time. And then we go ahead, we shuffle back the energy, and we rip a research. We did actually go second this game. Our opponent just benched the Palkia and passed. So that's very nice for us. Maybe we just can get a free win here, and we won't need the Hawlucha. We get a decent board going. We got the Cleffa, we got Drago. We'd love to get a Switch or even Prime Catcher I would love to use here. Something else to note is that we did discard both of our boss's orders off that initial research, so not particularly good. We go ahead, play this Ultra Ball, get our Dragon Pokemon in the discard. We just grab the Regidrago for next turn, just in case he top decks an Iono or had an Iono in hand and plays it. I'm not even sure Goldengho decks actually play Iono, but regardless, play around the Iono anyways, just discard those dragons. And our opponent looks like he actually top decked a Buddy Poffin, and that's going to keep him in the game here, help him get down some Gimme Ghouls. He also gets an attachment onto the Manaphy. It's pretty crucial. If he doesn't attach to the Manaphy here, I'm under a lot less pressure to attack because it's a lot harder for him to attack, right? He has to attach to retreat and attach to attack. So unless he plays Switch and draws his Switch, he wouldn't be attacking next turn, but he's got the energy, so he can retreat next turn. We play a Research, and at this point, we are feeling a little lost here. Without Hawlucha, it's really hard for us to do something productive here. I remember I also prized the canceling Cologne, so there's no ideas of like canceling Cologne Kyurem. Both of our boss's orders are in the discard, so if we wait, we're still never going to be able to boss up that Palkia. And also, if we wait, we could just get one shot next turn anyways, like if we passed here. I think I would have liked to use Cleffa here. If I had Switch, I might have gone into the Cleffa. But we don't have Switch, we don't have Clone, we don't have Hawlucha, so we just go in with Phantom Dive here. We also would have loved to have Goodra, just make this return KO a little bit more difficult for my opponent. And when his first action of the turn is Energy Search Pro, we're pretty confident we're dead here. And so we're going to have an uphill battle here. We're likely going to be down, well, I guess we're technically only down 1 prize card, but this 1 prize card is so significant. Goldengho decks can draw like a million cards a turn, Fez, the Goldenghos, the Greninja, and it's really not that hard for them to chain together 2 prize KOs. So we're going to be looking to use Radzard maybe a couple times, try to swing the prize trade that way. The awkward thing is that our opponent has the Palkia in play, so if he's able to use Star Portal to set up the Greninja, he can use the Moonlight Shuriken to knock out our Radzard because of weakness, and then our Cleffa because Cleffa is super frail. So we feel pretty bad about the situation overall, and I think this really just goes to show why Hawlucha is so good. If we play Hawlucha here, we take 2 prizes, and we're just up 2 prizes, and the game is like over, because then we can just trade these Goldengos back and forth with Radzard, just take 2 prizes every turn, and we would never lose the game. But we go from a game where we would never lose if we had Hawlucha to a game that's now going to be very, very hard to win. Additionally, even if we didn't have the Hawlucha last turn and we had Hawlucha here, we could like Hawlucha the Fez and the Gimme Ghoul, and then use Prime Catcher Dragapult to take 3, and that would fix our prize trade as well. But we've got the stupid Canceling Clone in our deck, so that's not going to help us out later either. Go ahead, we grab the Radzard. At this point, I think we are pretty unlikely to get the Radzard attack off, right? We would need double E-Switch, Grass Energy, Fire Energy. I think I might have prized an E-Switch or 2 as well this game, so I remember in the moment I just was really not confident I was going to be able to get this Radzard attack off. And I didn't want to flip my VSTAR power in order to do it. I felt like if I flip my VSTAR power to Radzard here, we could just end up dying to like the Radiant Greninja double prize thing, and I would just feel like I was in an awful spot. Down my VSTAR, I might mill like my other Super Rod. I think I still have 1 Super Rod left, but I really didn't want a V-Star here to get this KO. I also felt like it was fairly unlikely that if I just didn't take a knockout, my opponent would be able to do anything productive here. So we're just going to hope that they knock out this Cleffa here. We're going to take the turn off like we wanted to do on turn 2, but because we started Regidrago V this game, we really didn't have that option. And so my opponent's going to go ahead. He's going to start drawing cards. He's going to start coin bonusing it up. Hopefully, we're really hoping to dodge boss's orders. He pops down the Iron Bundle pretty early in his turn. Good on him, denying us the information of what he's really trying to do here. And I think I mentioned it, but what he's trying to do here is the Greninja play. He's trying to take out the Radiant Zard with weakness and the Cleffa with the Bench Snipe. But it's going to be a little awkward here. He's going to have to retreat the Goldengho, which historically these Goldengho decks don't play very good switching outs. They play the E-Search Pro now, so they don't have access to Prime Catcher. So definitely going to be a little bit awkward for my opponent. At this point, we're kind of hoping that he just knocks out the Radzard, and then we can go into Drago. Either way, the prize trade is completely cooked for us at this point, and we're going to have to get really creative if we want to try and win this game. But again, don't count us out. This Regidrago deck always, I mean, at this point, it doesn't even surprise me. Like, when you're losing these games, I think they're fully winnable. Our opponent shows us he actually plays Switch, so that's good to know. I didn't think these Goldengho decks usually played Switch. Let me know in the comment section down below if you guys have seen Goldengho decks play Switch, but I was definitely not expecting that. But the good thing about him playing the Switch here was that I was very confident that he didn't play 2 Switch. So when he goes ahead, uses the Star Portal, puts all the energies onto the Radiant Greninja, he actually has a fairly massive liability on the board in that Palkia V-Star, right? If we bring up that Palkia, it's guaranteed to be stuck there for a turn. So that's where I think my opportunity lies here. I can bring up the Palkia, maybe I can start using Kyurem, maybe I can get a free Dragapult attack in and then look for a massive cleanup turn on the next turn. In the moment, I'm not entirely sure what exactly my line is, but I definitely know that my line starts with bringing up that Palkia. Additionally, I realize here that I don't actually have to play a Hand Disruption card this turn. At first I was like, oh, I need to play Iono, he's got so many cards, but he already played Switch. There's no way he plays 2 Switch. So I figured I'll just bring in this Palkia, hit it with Dragapult, get some free damage on the board. I don't really have the resources to cure him multiple times, so pretty much what my angle here is this turn, I get the Dragapult off. He can't do anything. Presumably, he attaches to the Palkia and he passes. And then on the next turn, maybe we play Prime Catcher again, bring in something else. We use Goodra. And then on the last turn of the game, we cure him for 5 prizes on like the Greninja, the Palkia, and like whatever else we decide to damage. So that's my angle here. Of course, if he ever has boss's orders, that's going to be able to smoke us. Or if he can draw 8 energies, one-shot us through the Goodra, that's also going to be an issue. But for now, we should have a free turn here. I don't think there's anything my opponent can do. We're just going to get some damage on that Palkia. He's going to get to work those Goldenghos, drawing him a bunch of cards. Shout out to my opponent, Zach. He's got all the cool Goldenghos, too. They all look so epic. Even the alt art Palkias and Pheasantipity, really such a cool deck. All the gold energies. Shout out to Zach for being a long-time Goldengho enjoyer. He's trying to piece it out right now. What is his best line? He's got no switches. He decides to just go ahead, attach an energy to the Palkia, and pass. Pretty much what we expected. And now we're going to put our plan into motion. We Nest Ball for the Iron Bundle. We're pretty much just hoping he puts up any Pokemon but the Radiant Greninja. That's going to let us save our VSTAR power. If he sends up the Radiant Greninja, we definitely don't want to take a knockout here. So we would probably go ahead and VSTAR, get the Prime Catcher back. But now we can VSTAR, and we don't have to use the Prime Catcher. We get the Prime Catcher back and the Iono. We needed the Iono. That's the big thing here because we need Zach to not have boss's orders. The other thing that's kind of nice here is I'm feeling like I'm pretty safe from any like 8 energy knockout, right? He's got like 4 energies trapped on the board. Surely he can't get 8 more to kill us through the Goodra. He immediately plays Iono thinking it was going to deck us out, but we actually have the perfect amount of cards to not deck out to Iono. I thought of that one. Make sure I don't get cheesed by the deck out. I've definitely had that happen to me before where I got too focused on fitting out my deck and then my opponent just plays an Iono and I lose the game. So not falling for that this time, Zach. Nice try, though. We let him know to just take back that Iono and keep playing out his turn. He draws a bunch of cards, really looking for that boss's orders. I'm wondering here if maybe I should have still used my Prime Catcher to bring up the Pheasantipity. That would have resulted in him needing 1 additional energy. So to knock out my active, he would actually need 9. And to knock out any of my guys on the bench, he would need 6. I'm not sure if that is actually better. I do like just like having the Prime Catcher in my deck. Makes me a little bit less stressed out about getting like randomly decked out or something. But that might have just been like nonsense and I should have just used the Prime Catcher to punch the Fez instead. And off the last coin bonus, Zach actually just hits the boss. He's got the SER, he's got an energy in hand. That's going to be the 5 energy knockout, and Zach takes us down in this one where we thought we were going to win with a sick Kieran play. In round 3, we run into our friend Jin Quan. He's been on the channel before. Last time he was playing Lost Box Pikachu, if I remember correctly. This time he's playing Ancient Box, a man of many tricks. And I haven't played against Ancient Box in a long time, so I was excited to get some practice against this matchup as well. Historically, Goodra has been really good in this matchup. Another play that I've loved against Ancient Box is to Phantom Dive the Greninja twice, and then use Hawlucha to knock it out. But I don't have Hawlucha, so I can't make that play. So I feel like I'm just always annoyed that I'm not having this Hawlucha card, so there'll probably be a Hawlucha in my deck in the future. We start off our turn with an Earthen Vessel here. We're going to do our full prize check. Looks like I'm being a slow poke, so I'm going to just skip through this and get to the gameplay. Alright, we're back in the game. We used Canceling Clone to turn off the Flutter Mane, so yippee, we get some usage out of this terrible Canceling Clone card. But anyways, we get to use our Ogrepons. We get some energies in play. I'm surprised I don't already have a Cleffa in play, but I guess I needed to Nest Ball for the Regidrago V, get the attachment down. That makes sense. We're definitely hoping to find a Cleffa off of this research just to draw 7 cards. Double Nest Ball, surely there's the Cleffa, the second Drago as well. Love to see it. This is an actual amazing turn 1. Maybe for like the first time ever, we actually see a good turn 1 with Drago. Surely I can never lose when I actually have a Regidrago on the board, right? Anyways, back over to Jin Quan. He's going to Vessel, get some energies into play. We assume our Cleffa is going to get knocked out here. We're hoping to avoid an Iron Bundle. I think if he went for an Iron Bundle here, we would just send up an Ogrepon. We don't want to send up a Regidrago and then have our Drago get 2-hit KO'd. We'd much rather just like send up an Ogrepon, have it absorb a hit, and then retreat it and never use it again. So Cleffa goes down here to the Flutter Mane, and we have to be careful about what we promote here, as whatever we promote won't have an ability for the turn. So we promote the Ogrepon with the energy, and at this point my hand is fairly underwhelming, so I actually just decide to attack with this Ogrepon here. I don't think I have a good dragon Pokemon in the discard to use Regidrago's attack, and I didn't want to just like flip my V-Star here and then start running out of steam as the game goes on. So we just get in there with the Ogrepon. From what it looks like, Jin Quan's got about 6 ancient cards in the discard, so we assume that our Ogrepon's probably going to survive. Of course, those Roaring Moon's weak to grass, so we can take another prize with that Ogrepon. And then from there, maybe we have to flip our V-Star next turn or the turn after, get our Regidragos going, and start using Goodra, Phantom Dive, whatever. We love to see this Fezandipity come onto the board as well. It's just going to give us a nice 2-prize KO at the end of the game. I was talking about how I like to Phantom Dive the Greninja twice and then Halucha it. That's how I usually like to cheat that kind of 2-prize KO at the end, but with the Fezandipity on the board, we're going to be able to get that 2-prize knockout anyways. Now we can even potentially get a 3-prize knockout, maybe if we set up some kind of like Kyurem play or something like that. The thing you really want to do in this matchup is deny Counter Catcher. Historically, Ancient Box has not been very good at using Boss's orders, so if you go from 2 to 0 prizes, whether that's using some kind of Phantom Dive or knocking out one of these 2-prize Pokemon, that's generally the way to go. And then Jinquan goes ahead and benches this Pecharunt EX in order to get the knockout with the Binding Mochi, and immediately we light up because we have a double Kyurem play. We can just go ahead now and Kyurem the Fezandipity, the Pecharunt, and any of the 1-prize Pokemon, and then on the following turn, we can just Kyurem again, take 5, and win the game. So if we can get a Regidrago set up this turn without using our VSTAR power, we should be pretty much a lock to win the game. Of course, Jinquan could play maybe Switch Cards, or Turo, or Bravery Charm, I guess. But generally, we don't really think he's playing any of those cards. He's already got Pecharunt EX and Binding Mochi in his Ancient Box deck, so I can't imagine he's fitting many other cool cards. I think Switch Cart would make the most sense, but surely we're not playing Switch Cart and Pecharunt EX, right? That's like too much mobility. We don't need that much. We go ahead, we hit the active with the last Kyurem ping. We take a second to think about it, and it seems nice that this Roaring Moon is about to die to poison, so potentially, like, if there were some kind of Switch Cart shenanigans or something, this will be good for us. Also, it'll let us draw a prize card coming into our turn, which is just nice to have extra cards. Presumably, Jinquan's going to deny this by just attacking with a different Roaring Moon, but we decided to do that anyways. As Jinquan plays out his turn, we definitely get a little bit concerned that he plays a Switch Cart or a Turo. He's drawing a lot of cards. He's kind of moving very quickly as if he has an out of some kind, so I'm definitely plotting here. What am I going to do if he does have a Switch Cart? I think maybe something like a Goodra attack into a Kyurem, or maybe like a Dragapult into a Kyurem could close out the game, but he doesn't have it. He just goes ahead and brings up the Ogerpon, knocks it out, and all we've got to do here is get the Kyurem attack off. We've got like an 8-card hand. I have to imagine it's a guaranteed. I'm going to take my time here. I don't want to embarrass myself. I'm mapping it all out. Looks like I'm going to get that Earthen Vessel and the E-Switch back off this V-Star. Oh, I guess I don't actually need the E-Switch. I've probably got 2 in hand. Go ahead, rod back the Ogerpon and some energies. Now I imagine we're going to use our Vessel, get the energies out. At this point, I'm asking him if I'm allowed to use Teal Dance with no cards in my deck. So he goes ahead, reads the card, and I'm pretty confident that I can do it with no cards in deck. But just in case, I shuffle in some more cards with Rod, and then we hit the Kyurem for 5 prizes and the game. Pretty cool game, and pretty awesome way to win. In round 4, we run into Dragapult Iron Thorns. Now, at one point, this matchup was a little concerning to me because I didn't really know what was going on, but now I've got a better grip on it, and I'm very confident that this is a good matchup for Regidrago. Step 1 is going to be to take out the Toedscruel or abuse Goodra, right? This deck doesn't do a lot of damage. They don't have the Dusknoir, so they're pretty capped at like 100 damage a turn if you're using Goodra, so they're not really going to get anywhere. We're just going to be looking to play this one slow, eventually start using Goodra, and then kill the Toedscruel at some point. Now, we have pretty much the worst start imaginable. We go first, we draw pass, and we don't even get an attachment on our Regidrago, so pretty much a disaster, about as bad as it can get. Luckily, I think my hand is somewhat playable, but my opponent gets the perfect turn 1 setup. They get the Toedscruel down, so there's no chance I'm going to be using the V-Star power. And this was pretty annoying because I actually have Prime Catcher in my hand, so my plan was on turn 2, Prime Catcher something up, use my V-Star power, and then I get to play the game. But we actually cannot do that as the Toedscruel is blocking our V-Star power, right? We're not able to put cards from the discard pile into our hand, so that's going to counter Legacy Star pretty well. Now, I'm playing Ultra Ball here, and it took a while to figure out my discards. I ended up discarding Fez. That card, of course, right now doesn't do anything because of the Iron Thorns, but eventually Dragapult has to come in, and then we could start drawing some cards with Fez. So I'm a little sad to see that go, but as we're doing our prize check here, something else disastrous happens. We noticed that we prized our Dragapult and our Kyurem, so we're just going to have access to Goodra, Tina, and I guess Regidrago V as well. which is fairly relevant actually, so that might come up. We go ahead and get the Cleffa, use the Prime Catcher. This is our only way to draw cards and play the game. Still no energy attachment, which is a bit of a disaster. I think if we went like attach past turn 1 and then we get a second attachment here and we use Cleffa, I would feel really good about the position, but this is definitely going to be a little awkward. The good thing we have going for us right now is that Toedscruel has a 2 retreat cost, so maybe my opponent can't get this Toedscruel out of the active, and then next turn we can maybe use some Teal Dances, some E-switches, get some energies on our Drago, and kind of catch up in this game, which we are definitely currently behind in. My opponent gets a second Dracloak out. It's going to let them draw cards more reliably. We're hoping they don't find like Rescue Board plus Crispin would be pretty bad. That would let them like retreat and then also get some extra energies into play. I guess it would even let him attack. No, it would not let him attack, but he's just going to go ahead and Crispin both energies onto this Toedscruel to retreat. That's okay with us. It does mean he won't be attacking. Of course, we would have loved to have seen the Toedscruel just sit there for an extra turn. Maybe we even could have knocked it out, which would be really nice, but we just go Nest Ball for the Iron Bundle here. Again, this is always, well, not always, but pretty much always the first thing you want to do during your turn. If you know you're going to bundle, do it at the start of your turn so your opponent doesn't really know what's happening. He doesn't know here if I'm going to be attacking or not, so he just goes ahead and sends up the Dreepy. I like that. Pretty useless Pokemon, and it has 1 retreat. If you were to send up like Radiant Alakazam or Toedscruel, it could be a disaster. I would just like Cleffa again, right? And now we finally get to play the game. We see an Iono. We Vessel away one of our 2 only attackers, I guess. So we get the Goodra in the discard. That's going to be our preferred attacker for, well, most of this game. And we get down the second Ogerpon, some energies. This is a great turn for us, really letting us catch up in the game. This bundle also really annoying for my opponent. It's probably going to stop him from attacking on the next turn. Right, if we didn't play the bundle, he could Crispin and then start attacking with the Iron Thorns, but now he has to retreat and Crispin, so again, he needs to have like his only Rescue Board and Crispin in hand. He's already used a Crispin, so we're feeling pretty safe. We go ahead, get the bundle back down, expecting Iron Thorns to come back up into the active, then we can push it to the bench again with the Iron Bundle, so that's nice to have, just in case of an Iono, and we also want to draw some more cards off Cleffa, so we end our turn, our opponent gets down a 3rd Dracloak, so they're drawing lots of cards, and we don't have our Kyurem, which is really sad. Otherwise, we would probably be Kyureming all these Dracloaks at some point. It can be dangerous to Kyurem in this matchup. Of course, if they have the Toedscruel and the Iron Thorns out and you just like rip Kyurem, well, you have no energies, you have no VSTAR power, you have no abilities, so you gotta be careful. If you're using Kyurem, you gotta be taking out the Toedscruel as well. So generally, a good plan is like Pult, put 10 on the Toedscruel, and then Kyurem. Or if you're playing the Hawlucha, you can also go like Hawlucha Kyurem, and that's pretty sweet. Of course, this game, we prized our Dragapult, so we might be relying on Dragon Laser, but we also prized our Kyurem, so I think generally our game plan here is just going to be to kind of like spam Goodra and just hope that we can randomly get there. And this bundle does buy us another turn. You see that Crispin in his hand, so he could have been able to attack if we didn't bundle last turn, but of course now just forced to retreat into the Iron Thorns and pass. And now we finally get our Regidrago set up, which we're pretty hyped about. I debate using the Iron Bundle here, but I figured my opponent would just send up maybe the Radiant Alakazam, and I didn't really want to take a prize card. That would enable Counter Catcher, and I would draw less cards off Iono, so mostly the Counter Catcher I didn't want to enable. And we're going to be looking to just take 2 prizes on this Iron Thorns next turn. But my opponent goes ahead, uses the Crispin, sets up the Dragapult. That's going to let this Iron Thorns retreat to the bench. Normally, we would be able to pick up that Iron Thorns with Dragapult, but the Dragapult's prized, so we're potentially going to be using Dragon Laser at some point to knock it out. At this point, we don't have a Regidrago V in the discard, but we could easily get a Drago V in the discard at some point, and then go for Dragon Laser. My opponent decides to knock out Cleffa here, which I don't really like. I think it's probably a mistake to knock out the Cleffa. This just frees up my bench space, makes him draw less cards off Iono, allows me to use Pheasantipede. Now, if he did want to knock out the Cleffa, I think it would have been smart to put some damage on Iron Bundle, even just 20 damage, right? If he knocks out the Cleffa, puts 20 damage on Iron Bundle, he threatens to use Radiant Alakazam plus a Phantom Dive to knock out the bundle and get back onto even prizes. So then I would be put in a position where I would probably have to use Iron Bundle this turn, which I don't really want to do. I really want to be attacking into this Dragapult with the energies. So I think he either should have not KO'd the Cleffa, maybe just like dump some damage onto Regidrago VSTAR, or if he's going to kill the Cleffa, he should threaten the Iron Bundle as well, force me to use it, which would be a little bit awkward for me. We go ahead, we get the Fezandipity down. That's going to be great for us. It's going to allow us to draw cards. Not that there's really very much we can draw into that's helpful. We already have Goodra in the discard. Most of our other attackers are prize. We're down our Prime Catcher. So I think at this point, really the only useful cards left in our deck are like a Boss's Orders or two, some Ionos maybe. But we've got 10 cards in hand, so I'm sure we're going to be able to do whatever we want this turn and probably next turn as well. So that's good. So we just go ahead and Goodra with our 10 card hand. Our opponent starts off his turn with Pokegear. He's going to grab my Boss's Orders. Now, I'm pretty glad to see that he doesn't find an Iono. Even if he found one, we'd still be drawing 6, so that's completely fine. Additionally, this means our Drago V-Star is probably going to be surviving. It might have been annoying if he just attacked this Drago, put it up to 240, and then like put 60 on the other Drago and threatened to like kill both my Dragos at once. That could have been really concerning. It would have probably forced me to try to set up a third Regidrago, which honestly I might have been able to do. I think I probably have the resources, but I'm not entirely sure. It could have been a huge pain for sure. But it just decides to go ahead, use Radiant Alakazam and Dragapult to knock out the Fezandipity, going down to 3 prizes. And at this point, it might look like a bad position, but I actually feel very confident from the spot. There's a bunch of damage on the board. We have 2 Regidragos. Our opponent's low on prize cards, which means they can't use Counter Catcher. My Ionos are going to start hitting him really hard. And at the start of my turn, I'm thinking I'm going to Dragon Laser here and take 4 prizes on the Pult and the Thorns. But I think that would actually be a fairly large mistake. If I do that, it allows my opponent to use Counter Catcher, and I don't have a way to take my last 2 prizes on the next turn anyways. There's not 2 Pokemon I can cure them. There's nothing I can use Lost Impact on. So I wouldn't be able to win next turn anyways, which to me means that I just shouldn't take the prizes. So what I'm actually going to end up doing here is just not knocking out the Iron Thorns. I'm going to use Dragon Laser, and I'm actually going to put 30 damage on the Toedscruel. And what this sets up for is if I draw Kyurem off the prize and the Dracloak doesn't evolve, which from what I know, these Pult Thorns decks only play 2 Dragapults. So if I just put some damage on the Toedscruel and I happen to hit Kyurem off the prizes, I do have a way to win the game next turn, which is very nice. This way, I also don't enable Counter Catcher. I draw more cards off Iono. And typically, I mean, this would deny him Fez, but of course, his deck does not play Fezandipity. We see him with the Terra Ball, which just makes me even more confident that there is not a third Dragapult EX. And you see it in the top of my hand there. I actually end up drawing the Kyurem off the prizes, so on my next turn, I am just going to Kyurem for 4 and win the game. Now, even if I didn't draw that Kyurem off the prizes, I still feel relatively confident about this game. If my opponent were to knock out my active Pokemon, I would Iono him to 1, Goodra into the Dragapult, and then assuming he doesn't find a Boss's Orders, I would be able to just Dragon Laser for 4 on the following turn. So not drawing the Kyurem would have just allowed my opponent the opportunity to sack Boss off of Iono to 1. Otherwise, I still would have won. And it's pretty crazy to me. You know, we drew past on turn 1. We probably didn't attack till like turn 4 or something, and we end up winning this game against Dragapult Iron Thorns. In round 5, we run into our good friend Paulo, and he's also playing Regidrago, and this is one of my favorite games I've ever recorded because I'm still not sure if I played it correctly. I think I did, but I really don't know, so I'm going to need your guys' opinions down in the comments section below if you like how I played this or not. Paulo's going to go ahead and start us off. He starts Fezandipity, which is honestly a pretty bad starting Pokemon. A lot of times in these Regidrago mirrors, Pokemon aren't really dying. They're just building up damage from Goodra's Pults. And he follows it up by benching Squawkabilly immediately, which is also pretty terrible. Another weak Pokemon that can be set up for some cheeky KOs. Additionally, this opens him up to some ideas of double Kyurem, but looks like this is what he had to do. His hand's pretty bad, and he needs to Squawkabilly, get down some energies and some other Pokemon. Of course, this means, like I just mentioned, I can maybe Prime Catcher in Ogerpon and like Kyurem twice. Now, his one card in hand was actually an Iono, so I think I actually would have liked to have seen him not use Squawkabilly, just like get down a good Pokemon, maybe like even Cleffa or Second Drago, just pass and then next turn play the Iono. Of course, he doesn't have an energy attachment, which makes that pretty bad, and I'm playing Iron Bundle, so I'm going to be able to initiate a lot quicker than him. So at the same time, I don't mind some aggression from Paulo, because if I can set up, I'm probably going to break the Cleffa war before him, right? A lot of these Drago games, you just Cleffa back and forth until one of you can boss and attack. And of course, I'm not going to need a boss. I have Iron Bundle, so maybe that means he needs to play more aggressively, use Squawkabilly, and maybe even VSTAR on turn 2, look for Prime Catcher. Anyways, when I Nest Ball, I notice I prized double Regidrago VSTAR, which is a little bit annoying, and it's going to come up big time later on in the game. We're going to have a big discussion about it, but for now, just take a note, there are 2 Regidrago VSTARs prized. I go ahead and get down a couple Pokemon, just sorting out what I'm going to be Ultra Balling away here. My goal for the turn is going to be to Cleffa, and I have a Switch or a Prime Catcher in hand. If I didn't have Switch or Prime in hand, I would have just attached an energy to this Iron Bundle over attaching to the Regidrago. Using Cleffa on turn 1 is more important than getting the attachment down. Of course, we love to do both, but gotta prioritize getting Cleffa in the active, and there's the Prime Catcher. We go for the Iono, draw some cards. Maybe we were just thinking about what Pokemon to Prime Catcher there. We go for the Squawkabilly. I think it's definitely the best option. Stuck in the active here, he can't Teal Dance to the Squawkabilly to retreat, so he's gonna need like Teal Dance, E-Switch, E-Switch, attach, boss, something like that, but I guess Prime Catcher definitely makes that a lot easier. And he opts to send up the Regidrago VSTAR off the Prime Catcher, which is interesting. It definitely commits him to getting an attack off here. If he whiffs E-Switch like he did now, he has to VSTAR, whereas if he sent up the Teal Mask, maybe he could end this turn with a Cleffa, but Regidrago VSTAR is in the active now. He has to VSTAR. He can't just afford to pass and let me lose impact. And he's looking for E-Switch. He doesn't find the E-Switch, which puts him in an even more awkward position now. And this just really shows why Cleffa is so important in the mirror. Even going first, if he just kind of went for a Cleffa, I think it would have been a little better. Now, with the Iron Bundle down, the Cleffa route is a little worse, so I definitely respect this aggression play a little bit more when I play Iron Bundle and he doesn't. He ends up getting the Prime Catcher back with the V-Star, and he's just going to go ahead and use it to stall out the other Regidrago V, get his Regidrago V-Star out of the active. Of course, it was primed for a loss impact there, so he's going to go ahead and protect it. I think that makes a lot of sense. And onto my turn, I'm just going to be looking to do really any attack. I think Goodra is probably my best option. Kyurem, also another amazing option. Of course, I can Kyurem the Teal Mask, the Squawk, and the Fez. I think Paulo probably should have retreated into the Squawk or the Fez, because when Ogerpon's on the bench, it has Terra, and I can't go for the double Kyurem line. And as I'm starting off my turn, I am thinking I'm going for this double Kyurem line. All I need is an E-Switch, and that's going to let me Kyurem, but I actually don't think I realized I prized double V-Star until this Ultra Ball. I was going to Ultra Ball for Regidrago V-Star, and you see Paulo, he's picking up my discard pile. He notices that when I Ultra Ball for that Pheasantipity, it means I prized both of my other Dragos. So not only is it a disaster that I didn't get a second Regidrago, it's also a disaster that I telegraphed to Paulo that the rest of my V-Stars are prized. So what looks like a really good position has suddenly gotten a little bit questionable, as I wanted to go for this Kyurem play, but I think if I go for this Kyurem play and then Paulo just comes in and lost impacts my only Regidrago V-Star, forces me to have Super Rod to really do anything, it puts me in a really awkward spot. So I actually just opt to Goodra, protect my only Regidrago V-Star. I assume I didn't have a Super Rod in hand, so I didn't want my only Drago to die. On to Paulo's turn, he's setting up his Regidrago V-Star, and he's down his Prime Catcher and his V-Star, so at this point, I'm definitely going to be counting his gusting effects. He's got 2 bosses' orders, and at this point, they're actually both in his hand, so he goes ahead, uses one of the boss's orders. This is going to let him get a relevant attack in. He's going to Goodra my Regidrago V. Now, it's a little bit annoying because he knows I prized both my V-Stars, and so this Regidrago V is pretty awkwardly stuck there. My Prime Catcher is in the discard, so I'm going to need to have Switch if I want to attack. Now, I use Iron Bundle first. I don't want to telegraph my play, and then I switch right after, force him to make that decision before knowing if I can switch or not. He goes ahead, sends up the Ogerpon here, and at this point, I have a couple options. I put down the Fez, so I have a bit more protection if my only Regidrago VSTAR dies. And I'm debating between potentially Kyureming here, putting damage on the Squawk and Fez, setting up for some kind of 6-prize turn. I could put damage on the Drago VSTAR. That way, next turn I could even like Phantom Dive. I could knock out the VSTAR, the Squawk, and the Ogerpon with Phantom Dive. And then that way I wouldn't need a boss. I'm also debating just using Cleffa here. It might sound kind of insane, but I know Paulo only has one boss's orders left, so if I use Cleffa here, even if he uses boss's orders, he could like knock something out, and then that would be his last boss's orders. So then I could really put in work with Goodra, right? So maybe he bosses orders, knock something out, then I go like Goodra, Ogerpon, and then I take a 6-prize on the Squawk on the following turn, and he wouldn't have any gusting effects left. Could also get the Radzard in there. So I really go back and forth here a lot. I don't even think I can really draw cards with Cleffa. I think it would draw me like maybe one card. He also doesn't have his Giratina VSTAR in the discard, and he's down Prime. So the only way I really get punished for this is if he has Boss plus a way to discard Tina to knock out my only Regidrago VSTAR. So it would have to be like Boss, Vessel, Tina or something, which is just ridiculous. He's got a 3-card hand. And then I get to capitalize. Full health Regidrago VSTAR can come in on the next turn. Goodra something. So I actually think that might have been the play in hindsight. But I decided to just go for the Kyurem here. And I do decide to knock out the Ogerpon to try to draw a Regidrago VSTAR off the prizes. Again, like I don't even know if that's good. I could have just not killed anything. That way, if I get Iono'd, I still draw 6. But I wanted to make sure that I at least threatened a Drago VSTAR, right? If I didn't knock anything out, Paulo would know that I don't have access to any VSTARs, and he would just kill my VSTAR. But now when I take these prizes, at least I kind of make him question whether or not I have another Drago VSTAR. Maybe that way he decides to knock out the Regidrago V on the bench instead because it's got all the energies. Or maybe he lost impacts and then I actually did draw the Drago and it's really easy for me to just go Drago attach, Kyurem again for game. So I'm not entirely sure how I was supposed to play this endgame position. Prizing the double VSTAR made it awkward. And yes, of course, I do play 2 Super Odds, but Super Odds can be hard to find, especially if you've got to find Super Odd and then Ultra Ball to get the Drago VSTAR, so a little bit awkward. And Paulo, he's about to go for the Lost Impact here when he realizes that the Drago on the bench is pretty threatening. I do potentially have a Drago VSTAR in my deck now, so he actually decides to knock out the Regidrago V on the bench. I think that's a bit of a mistake. I think my VSTAR power here is just too broken, and I'm pretty much guaranteed to find what I need to cure him here with access to my VSTAR. So I think if Paulo just like killed my active and just hoped I didn't have what I need, a Drago VSTAR basically, that would have been better. And I do just double E-switch and cure him. So I don't know, a lot of different things I could have done there. Prizing the VSTARs definitely made it a little awkward. I could have not killed anything. I could have Cleffa'd. I think I actually like just Cleffing the best there. Yeah, I don't know. Let me know in the comment section down below on this one. But we end up closing out a solid 4-1 record at League this time, only losing to the Goldengho player, mostly because we didn't play Hawlucha. So Hawlucha probably coming back into my deck, and other than that, I'll see you guys in the next video.